David, hello, sir. How are you?
Hey Stu, how you doing, buddy?
I'm good. I'm still recovering from a full weekend of 7-year-old Little League baseball
Mm,
tournament.
Mm.
mm-hmm.
Um, I'm exhausted. It's Tuesday, uh, and I'm still worn out. Mitch, like I know you have some kiddos. I'm guessing, you know, maybe in Little League, but
Yeah.
like as a baseball coach for a Little League team, I feel like I'm more tired after one of those games than like college baseball. I'm just saying. Like, I don't know.
That's
Do you have
interesting,
any
This
man.
is
experience of that?
this is my first year coaching and it's 6U. It's herding cats, man. It's
Mm.
brutal. It's brutal.
Yeah,
Stu, and I'm also a coach. Football is my sport, and I would just offer what I offer my kids, Stu, and that'd be, hey, dude, suck it up, man. Like toughen up a little bit. You know what I mean? Like maybe find some resilience, maybe find a little bit of toughness, push through. You know what I mean?
dude, no kidding. Saturday, like late afternoon, we had like back to back to back games. It was like a full tournament, and like we got home at like 7 o'clock, and I was like done. Like I was like, kids, get in the shower, get your jammies on. We're going to bed, and I'm out. And I was like, literally, like
Baseball is not for
in
fun. This wasn't
like,
fun
Yeah,
today. So this
dude,
you
isn't a
guys
kid's
lost.
sport. This
Go to
isn't a
sleep.
kid's
Yeah.
yeah.
game that we're supposed to be encouraging you to grow and be better human beings. And also, it's a game. It's
Yeah.
not that. This is
No,
serious. Go shower. Get out
this
of
is
my
serious.
face.
Yeah. Go to bed. Get your rest for tomorrow. We're winning this thing. Let's
We're
go.
winning. We're winning. And we got swept again.
No, we actually did. We did pretty good. We
That's
made it to the
good.
semifinals. We lost to the one team in our league that's like undefeated. So it was a good
Well,
run. Good run.
and as you're talking through this, Mitch, I'm interested. I mean, we're gonna dive into your story, but obviously you have significant baseball background, very high level, and I'm as we're talking through it, I'm just kind of curious, and we could put a pin in this question, but I am curious as you think through your youth and when you were young, kind of the impact that the coaches had long term on you. Because I think it'd be an interesting perspective as well. That's one thing that hit me last year with our group of coaches was, hey guys, what are we trying to do here? Right? I coach my middle son who's currently 12, just turned 12. They're going to be seventh grade next year. I've been coaching this group of boys for a couple years in tackle, and last year it kind of hit like, man, we have a limited opportunity here and what are we really trying to do as coaches through these sports, right? Like what kind of men? It's hard to look at a bunch of sixth graders because I don't know about you guys, but middle schoolers are basically the worst human beings in the planet Earth. But it's hard to look at that group of kids and be like, I'm investing in what these kids are going to grow up and look like as men right now. And so it's just an interesting thing. But let's hear about you a little bit first. And you can, before we hit record, we were talking through being vulnerable. We don't probably have to be as vulnerable as we were before we hit record. But I
We
mean, hey
That's
record,
man,
yeah.
just tell us who you are. Tell us who you are.
right. Well, obviously, Naval Academy grad like you guys, class of 2008. Was fortunate that was drafted by the Cardinals my junior year, or excuse me, Braves the junior year, and then Cardinals my senior year. Then did 5 years of active duty, three deployments in 4 years. Got to see the world. Surface warfare officer, was on an amphib and then a frigate. And then was fortunate enough to be able to come back and play after my service, and made my debut in 2015, and got to play a little bit in the big leagues. Then had surgery in 16, and as I like to tell people, I had to get a real big boy job after that. But had a blast. Took the scenic route, I like to say. But it was fun. I love it. It was a good time.
Well, let's get into the scenic route a little bit, right? Like you're coming out with this book called The Private War, and you gave us a first look at it, and David and I dove in, and man, it's such a cool story with just lots of ups and downs and twists and turns, and like let's get that scenic view a little bit, if you could. Maybe let's just start, at the Naval Academy, playing baseball there, and you mentioned you got drafted in your junior year.
Yeah, I mean, so when I got to the academy, funny story is the coaches had never seen me play. So I was actually recruited David, you might even know Buddy Green. So I was recruited by Buddy Green, who was at the time the defensive coordinator for the football team. He came out of high school to recruit for football. Happened to see me throwing a bullpen. Next thing I know, going to visit, and the story is the rest. But I get there, and I was a two-way guy in high school, so I was recruited as a hitting third baseman that could pitch a little bit. We were terrible my freshman year. We lost like 30 something games. Um, Chet came in, the athletic director, and said, "Hey, we're going to redo the whole program, bring in a new coach." Brought a new coach my sophomore year, redid the whole field, everything. Basically said, "Hey, if you think you're on the team, you're not." And that year, as y'all can understand, I lost 20 pounds my freshman year, gained it all back in muscle going in my sophomore year. Started throwing harder. Next thing I know, now I'm kind of the number one starter pitching. In my sophomore year, had a great year, which kind of put me on the map, and then from there, kind of progressed each and every year thereafter, and just fortunate that the right people saw me at the right time, and then from there, we were just trying to figure out the whole Navy deal. Obviously, when that kind of came about.
Yeah, so tell us about that, because and for our listeners that maybe don't have academy background, uh, there's it's it's always an interesting dance if athletes are good enough to go to the next level, right? Because I mean the athletics at the academy are high level Division One athletics, and if you're good enough, it's almost like it depends on the year, and it's not even the year. It just depends on whose desk your paperwork
So many
falls on,
factors.
and
That's right.
what things that basically are completely out of your control. Uh, but that was a time when the Naval Academy football team was doing pretty good, and Katani was, this was during
Yep.
a lot of the time that they were excelling, and so there's this interesting dynamic of if you're good enough to play, you make a team. The decision sometimes is yes, go play, do reserve. Sometimes it's no, and I mean it's just a fascinating thing. So tell us a little bit more detail as you're getting attention, you're getting drafted and just what that looks like, and even touch on some of the frustrations around that.
Yeah, so and that was just to kind of give perspective. That was 2008, 2009, and that we were kind of, I graduated 2008, but we were thinking 2007, leading into 2008. We didn't really know where the war was going at the time, and the Navy basically just said, "Hey, look, we're going to put a hold on this, early release policy." And so, again, to those who don't understand, going into your junior year, you have to sign a 2 for 7, meaning 2 more years of school, 5 years of service. And so, long story short, is that was a tough decision. I actually have a picture. You guys would appreciate this. I have a picture of me sitting in Memorial Hall, kind of staring at this paper, like, "All right, I'm going to sign this thing and just hope for the best." And that was tough. I still to this day specifically remember thinking, like, "Man, I've got two hard decisions here, because one is like, this is my childhood dream, and then this other is like, wow, look at what I've accomplished and given to the Naval Academy. I want to fulfill this. I want to fulfill my commitment." And so those were the two things that I was having to battle with. And so, and I just told the Navy, like, "You tell me how I can do both and I'll do it." And I never got an answer to that. And so that was the hardest part, was being so willing to make it work. And I think because of things that had happened prior to me, I think that, had a gray cloud over the whole sports and trying to do both. And so there was not a lot of leeway when I was graduating. And so at the time, they basically just said, "Look, we're going to put it on hold, and you can put a package in, send it up, and see what happens to see about getting early release." Um, but I think the frustrating part, and you bring it up, Katani and I are good friends, and to this day. Um, and there was a time, and I wrote about this in the book, where I basically just told my CEO, I said, "Look, can I just take leave and go to spring training?" And he said, "You know what? You've got enough. Why don't you just take all of it and go?" So I took a whole month of leave, basically took my whole leave for the year, and went to spring training in 2012, while I had a package into the Navy to get out a year early and extend my reserve time. The day I got a phone call that they said, "Hey, sorry, we denied your package," I got a text from Katani who said, "Hey, man, I just got approved to go play. What'd they say to you?" And so that was hard, quite frankly, because I was extremely happy for my buddy and my friend, but I was also extremely frustrated because it showed that these guys just don't understand. these people in leadership roles just don't understand the sports, professional sports, and understand that, you get drafted or sign to play football, you're in the NFL. You go right to the practice squad. You're playing immediately. And in Major League Baseball, that's just not how it works. And so it was frustrating, but I think that just is one of the things that was a driver for me. While I was in the Navy and on active duty, I think I always preached to my guys like, hey, if you're going to be a full time enlisted and you're going to just do 20 or whatever that looks like, or hey, you're just trying to get stepping stones for education, or maybe just whatever that next career is, have a plan. I want you to talk to me about that plan so I could best help lead them to do whatever they're wanting to do. And I'll never forget one of the guys who found out kind of my whole backstory said, what's your plan? And I thought, okay, you caught me in that. You know what? I'm going to come up with one, and I'm going to sit and talk to all of you about what I'm going to do. And man, to this day, that meant a lot. And what was really cool is he was at my debut in Milwaukee, and so it came real full circle because as I pushed my guys to say, hey, whatever that is you want to accomplish, man, set your eyes on that and do it. And I don't care if that means career military, if that means just hey, get a couple of years in to go find that next career. But for me, that was a driver because now I said, okay, people told me I couldn't do it, or hey, that's too lofty of a goal. And I'm going to prove to these guys that you can, accomplish whatever it is you want to put your mind to.
Hey, Mitch, in your story, in your book, you talk about a lot of challenges, beyond just the Navy telling you no a lot of times, to leave and go play Major League Baseball. And at some point during this interview, I want to, do a rewind and kind of talk through some of those setbacks. But it seems like there are setbacks that you had, there are challenges that you had that you made the decision to let go on, right? There are other decisions and setbacks that you chose to continue pursuing. This lofty goal of playing Major League Baseball. And there's decision points in all of these, right? And so I'm curious, how would you tell somebody how to delineate those, right? Like how to choose to make a decision to keep on pursuing that lofty big goal versus how to make a decision to let go and move on to something else. Like is there like a set point where, you make that decision? Like how did you go through those big decisions in your life?
Yeah. So for me, foundationally, I think it goes back to my upbringing. As a Christian, I always kind of said, "Hey, look, I'm going to pray on these things," and that was one of the things that really, really helped because it gave me that peace that I can really push into this. I can lean into this. I would be honest with you and say there wasn't really just how I came up. There's not a lot of times where I said I'm going to let go. It was almost like, hey, God, you're gonna have to shut this door for me to not go through it. And he did. And there was times when he did. And it was hard, really hard. But for me, it was a matter of just like, hey, anytime someone said you can't, that really just added. I mean, that was just like blowing on a fire for me. Or if someone said, and I talk about this in the book, man, that's impossible. It bothered me because I just truly felt, and I had some good mentors that said, nothing's really impossible. It might be improbable, but nothing's impossible. And so that was something that really, stuck with me. And so I would say that the biggest thing was, man, as I got to things that were really, really tough of trying to figure out, like, I don't know if this is the end or not, man. I just had to pray about it and say, okay, God, if this is really it, like, please shut that door and show me that, man, I just need to move in a different direction. And that actually happened. And I'll kind of, allude to this from my marriage, coming out of the Navy. And that was one of the hardest things I've ever gone through in my life, and changed who I am and made me who I am. And that was hard to let go, especially as a Christian growing up in the church. That's not something that you do. And so I did everything I possibly could in my eyes to fix that, to mend that back, to make that whole again. And obviously that didn't happen. And that was extremely hard to let go of. And that was one that I again had to just pray about a lot and say, like, all right, God, I really can't let go of this. It's really bothering me. But man, if this is really the direction I need to go, like, you're gonna have to help give me that peace. And thankfully you did.
Yeah, so let's I want to go full, tell us kind of how the career went, what happened, and then I'd like to rewind to some of these. You touched on it, your first marriage and just kind of the challenges there, and then there's some. I mean, it gets significant, right? There's some drinking, some different self-harm thoughts, like mental health stuff that you battle through. Because I think a lot of people are like, oh man, Naval Academy, baseball, MLB, like, oh, that's great. What a happy story. It's not really that way, and there's a lot of challenges in that. And I think embracing those is good. But help put a bow on what happened. You get out, go play baseball. What happened there?
Yeah, so people laugh, but one of the cooks on our ship, I found out he was from Dominican. We would throw on the flight deck. So I've tried to stay in shape, keep my mind in it, and just tell myself that once I got the opportunity that I didn't have to worry about my body breaking down. I just knew I could get my arm back in shape. And fortunately enough, my last tour was shore duty, and so I would throw long toss workout just about every day to try to get ready for when I could get back down to spring training. And so 2013 came, and I pleaded again to the Navy, "Hey, I'm 27. Please, if there's no chance of me going down now, I don't see it happening." And fortunately enough, they let me out a few months early, and so I picked up shop and moved to Florida. Our spring training was there in Jupiter. I had friends in Boca, and so I stayed at my Naval Academy buddy's parents' house in Boca, and drove up to Jupiter every day. Made the 40+ hour or minute drive to Jupiter every day. Worked out, and fortunately, they were very welcoming in allowing me to come back. And it was ugly, to say the least, when I started, max effort, 83, 84, grunting, which was no bueno. But after just, again, just trying to work at it, figure out how to find that muscle memory. Fortunately enough, 2014 spring training, got to go to big league camp. 15 spring training, go to big league camp, and then make the big leagues about a week and a half into the season in 2015, and then stayed for most of the season in 15, and then 16. Excited to do the same thing, but come into spring training, I have felt some issues going on in my elbow. Wasn't sure what was the issue. Come to find out, my UCL, which is what you know of as kind of your Tommy John injury, my UCL was not attached, and so it didn't just tear. It was off the bone, and so I had to have surgery in 2016. Tried to come back in 17, wasn't the same. Had a little one at the time, and so we decided to move on. But man, I wouldn't take the whole thing back or change anything, because again, it made me who I am. I'm so happy that we did it the right way, that we were able to do it and accomplish it. I would love to have played longer, obviously, but man, the fact that we got it done was, important to me.
You mentioned in the book this tattoo that you have on your rib cage. Talk about that a little bit, and where did that come from?
Yeah, so to kind of give background, and David, you alluded to it a little bit. I think one of the worst times in my life was by far, coming out of the Navy, coming off my last deployment, and realizing that the woman that I loved at the time, um, didn't love me back. And when I came off of deployment, she was with somebody else, 20 years our senior. And I found out about it in a way that you don't want to. I didn't walk in on them or anything like that, but pretty much it was pretty evident that she had no interest whatsoever anymore. And that was hard. That was a hard pill to swallow. And I didn't know how to fill that void at the time. And I've tried to fill it with anything I could. I mean, literally, I tried to fill that with anything I could, the pain, the misery. And finally went to counseling after a probably rock bottom. And Stu, or David, one of you alluded to it, but rock bottom was one night by myself in the condo, just trying to drown the sorrows and the feelings of the memories of everything else, drinking anything I could. um, I finally just had to get out of the condo. I didn't know what to do, didn't know where to go, because all of our friends were the same, and so I just felt alone, and that's a loneliness that I don't wish on anybody. And so I started packing a duffel bag, get everything ready to go to leave, not really knowing where I was going. And the last thing I packed was my 1911 45 caliber handgun. And I tell people all the time that Do I say that in that, like, man, I was gonna go commit suicide or I was gonna do this? No, but I also don't know, because that wasn't off the list. Because I think for me it was like, man, I'm so miserable. There's nothing that can help the feeling that I have now, and I really didn't know where to go. And the coolest part of the story is when I got to the truck, I went grabbed the door handle to leave, and again, just kind of just to go for a drive, and my mom called as I was leaving, grabbing the door handle. And obviously I broke down, lost it right there. She made sure I got to a friend's house, and my family made me go to a counselor. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm not a journaler. In my mind, when you say journal, I think of a pink fluffy notebook that you write your feelings and crushes in. And so
That's what
this
Stu has.
counselor,
I mean,
yeah, yeah, the one that Stu was
that's
talking
not
about earlier.
inaccurate. Yeah, yeah, it's not inaccurate.
Yeah, close enough, close enough. But I mean, it was
Yeah,
it
it's
was
brown.
hard because brown and fuzzy, close enough. But it was hard because for me, it was like, man, that's not me. I don't that doesn't sound like anything that's going to help. And so one night I finally said, well, what do I have to lose? I'll just start writing things down. And man, I wrote all kinds of stuff, just anger, frustration, all the things. And I finally started going back and reading what I'd written, and I came across this quote that I wrote down. It just said, "It takes courage to face the mountain and strength to climb, but when you reach the summit and see the valley, you realize who you become." And I thought, wow, this bottle's really good. What like where did that come from? Like and I just kept reading it over and over again. And this was probably literally 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. And I sobered up and went straight to the tattoo place right down the street. And I told the guy, I said, look, I want you to put this on my ribs right now. I don't ever want to forget this moment. And the guy's like, yeah, we can do it. A couple hours. You did one line at a time in between. It was like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? But at the end of the night, I was like, you know what? Yeah, that was a rash decision to go do that immediately. But I'm so thankful that I did, because every morning when I get up and I look myself in the mirror getting ready for the day, I can remind myself of the depth of which I climbed out of, and looking back, seeing the summit now of being happily married for 10 years this year, two kids, successful career, things that I've accomplished. I get to look back and say, wow, man, it did take courage. It did take strength, but man, it's really cool to look back from the summit that I'm at now to see the depth of which I had to crawl out of. I'm more proud of the journey to that than I am of the view up here at the summit. Like, I'm so proud of the journey and the things I had to do to become who I am because of the trials and things I had to go through. And so that's something that's really meaningful to me.
Hey, real talk, dude. Do you have any like no regrets lines in there?
Is it sad that I still every now I'm like, did he misspell that word? I kind of like make sure checking, spell check
Yeah,
is
it's
not
good. Yeah,
doesn't work on
no
tattoos,
regrets.
but
No
yeah.
regrets. That's awesome, man. And I appreciate you sharing. And in your book, you I mean, you get very vulnerable. Like it just as I was reading through it, it just grabbed a hold, right? Because I think it was so, and you touch on it, but it grabbed a hold of me from a couple perspectives. One, um, the complete reliance on God. That we have to get to a place that it's and I was before this call, um, I was doing some journaling and some praying. And oh, this was a gift recently. I want to highlight this to all our readers, but someone gave me a journal. It's a leather bound journal. It's a 5-year journal.
I'll
And
see, that's a
so
cool journal, like a leather bound.
this
That's a
is
sick
super
journal.
cool. It's super cool, right? It's leather bound, but the reason I want to point it out is because you
Since everyone's showing the
effectively
journals, I do journal now, so that
yeah,
everyone
no, it's
knows. I
great.
do have,
It's
yeah.
great. I'm a big believer. But when we talk about journaling, there's only enough room on each page. It's 5 years, right? There's only enough room for a couple lines. But the beauty of it is whatever I capture today, I don't know what I'm going to capture, but whatever I capture today, it'll be really cool to see it the same day next year and then 5 years forward, just to be able to see tangibly the growth. And your book, I think, is a very not I think your book is an amazing way to capture the true story of what happened, where you were, and where you've come. And dude, the things that really grabbed my heart were the reliance on God, complete dependence on like I'm rock bottom. I can do nothing, and a lot of the things that you're experiencing were out of your control. right?
Yeah.
Your ex-wife, I mean, you have no control over that. And so there was those aspects, but also the reality of the pain that, one thing that as I was reading your book, I started thinking through a lot of conversations I've been having recently, and everybody hurts. We're all facing something, right? Like nobody's got it dialed in, nobody's got it figured out. And it doesn't matter if it's MLB, NFL, Navy, or homeless. We're all going through a thing, and we could all make a decision that puts us in a place of compromise, right? And
Yeah.
it was a I really appreciate you putting that story down. And I'm just curious from a faith perspective, how were as you were going through all this, like where was your faith in that? Where was
Yeah,
Go
it
ahead.
was what day? So one day it would be like, God, I'm so mad at you. Like this is I don't see how you love me. And then the next day would be like, okay, God, I don't know how to do anything today other than say like you just take the day, and just help me get through the next 10 minutes. It was definitely a roller coaster for sure. But thankfully, having people around me, when I was able to be vulnerable, to kind of pour into me was so valuable. And I think that's what drives me now is with this story is making sure that people know, like, and I talked about this I think before we started recording, but like one of my biggest passions with men, right, is we are so quick to be like, yeah, look at the scar, look what happened to me, look how tough I am. And as soon as I ask you about that scar, it's like, oh, something happened. It's like I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to be vulnerable. I don't want to tell you that I felt pain. I don't want to tell you that I failed. I don't want to tell you I made a bad mistake. But what we forget about that is there's so many others that have that same wound and their wound is still open. And if we don't help to say, hey man, I've gone through that. Hey, I got through that. I helped, this person go through this, or man, I've been there. I can relate. Then those people are gonna sulk in that wound, and they're gonna try to fill that and fill that void with something that that doesn't help or makes things worse. And so that's been my challenge and motivation is making sure that men know that it's okay to seek help. It's okay to just reach out and say, man, I don't know what to do. I need somebody to just say, hey, I've got your six, man. I'm right behind you. I've got you. Because I think in that moment for me, I felt like there was nobody there. I felt like there was no one who could come in and help. And so my relationship with God in those moments were just like, and I'm angry, and I don't understand why. And there was, I'll never forget. My mom sent me a letter one day, and in the letter was a printout of the first chapter of James, and when I started reading it, it was just like, yeah, consider it pure joy when you go through trials and tribulations. And I was very mad when I got to that part because I was like, what? How do you, how am I going to consider this joy when I'm in misery? And I feel like God just really spoke to me and just kind of just said, hey, look, like, man, I've got bigger plans than what your little human eyes can see or understand. And one day you're gonna look back and be like, you know what? I became who I am. I persevered. I came much stronger of the man I am today because of the things I've gone through. And now, what's so rewarding is and not giving me credit, but giving him credit is when guys call and say, I don't know who to call. I thought I heard that you had gone through this. I need to talk to somebody.
Mm,
That
that's
is the
good.
most rewarding phone call I can ever get. I mean, to me, that's happened. I can tell you numerous stories about guys who've called or text me and just they won't say it, directly. They would just be like, "Hey, man, you got a few minutes?" Or "Hey, I just like to say what's up," and you kind of start feeling like something's off, and then because of the way that I was, went through things, I just hit them point blank, man. Hey, are you good? What's going on? Talk to me. And eventually that comes out when they realize like, oh, I didn't know you've gone through that. They spill it, man. And that's the
Mm,
rewarding thing is being able to help guys be like, look, we're going to mess up. We're going to go through some things. We're going to have some troubles. But man, at the end of the day, you're gonna get through it. If it's with someone helping you to kind of grasp arms and walk through it together, if it's just getting on your knees and saying, all right, God, I don't know what to do here. I need some wisdom. But you can get through it. And so for me, that's one of the biggest passions I have from all this, in what I want the book to do.
Yeah, man. And real quick, I think we need to be realistic about stop sugarcoating loneliness. We talk about it, and I think the data is out there so much. We could talk about the loneliness epidemic. We could talk about the Surgeon General, all the different information that's prevalent and the reports that are out. As you were talking, one thing that was just really impressing my heart was when they talk about hell. They talk about hell being separated from God. It doesn't. It's not. Yeah, there's other imagery. There's other things around um, what we would expect, and it's gonna be way worse than we could ever imagine. But and the converse of that is heaven is 100% presence with God all the time, and way more amazing than we can also ever imagine, right? But when with this loneliness thing, I honestly think that if we walk around with the feeling of loneliness, if we walk around isolated, I actually think that's hell on earth. I think we need to stop sugarcoating it and call it what it is. I think that is probably, I can't imagine a place worse than being alone or feeling that I have nobody that I could go to. And so, and the stuff that Stu and I do, we really encourage like, hey, we talk about having friends and it's kind of, it sounds, fluffy and lighthearted. It sounds like Stu's journal, right? Pink and fluffy and full of, boas and stuff. But in reality, it's a serious matter because if we don't have anybody, I think that's exactly where Satan wants us. And then
Oh,
you said something
100%.
else. Oh, dude, I mean, it would make it, and that's why I think it's so prevalent in today's society
And I
is
think
is
too,
that,
he's really good at saying like, look, you're lonely. God's not here. He's not here
yeah.
with you. You're on your own. You got to figure out on your own. And we all know that's not possible.
Here's
Um,
some alcohol, here's some
yeah,
porn,
exactly.
here's
Yeah.
some
Hey, that's
video
not working,
games.
obviously. Look what God did to you. Look what he's allowed.
Mm.
You should try this now. You should try that now. She said she loved you. You should try that now. You should, and it's so easy to be misled, to think that we can have that, arrogance that we can solve that problem on our own. And
Yeah.
man, I couldn't agree with you more, David.
Well, yeah, and I think even there's a twist to it with Christians. There's this. I believe it is a completely false belief to say, "Well, I've got God, I've got Jesus, and that's all I need." When you look at the Word, that's not supported in the Word, right? Yes, you need God, you need Jesus. None of that is contested, but He talks about being in fellowship. He talks about the guilt of your sin will be alleviated when you confess to another person. The
Mhm.
sin will be alleviated. The sin is taken care of by Jesus, but the guilt and the follow on, the implications, that stuff is resolved through talking to a brother, talking to a sister, right? Like there's some fascinating things around we need people, and there's a verse I read every day that I'm wrestling. I wrestle with. I've had it for years on my calendar, and it's First Thessalonians 5:16 through 18, which is rejoice always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for your life, right? And it's like rejoice always in everything, really, like give thanks in all
Right.
circumstance, like that's hard, and it challenges the root of do you believe the word of God or not? Do you believe his promises or not? Do you follow his guidance or not? And that's when you're talking about when you're talking about James, that really hit me in the eyes. Like, man, rejoice always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, not some circumstances, not good circumstances, all circumstances. It's just a
And I think
fascinating
to
thing.
me, it took a lot of time following all that to really buy into that, because initially it was like, I can't believe he would do this. I can't believe he would allow this to happen. And then as I got older and got further on with life, then you're like, all right, I brought that on myself, and he just kind of allowed me to learn that lesson. But there are things that we can't control that he allows to happen, and we always wonder, like, how, why? That doesn't make no sense. But then you start to realize, like, he's allowed that to happen to you for a specific reason. Like he didn't just say, "Oh, randomly, let me just pick." Like he specifically had that designed in your life for a reason. You may not know the reason on this side of heaven, but it may be something where you get to impact somebody's life for the better or change their life for the better because you get to say, yeah, you know what? I can't tell you why God allowed that to happen to me, but it did, and it's made me who I am. And because of it, I can give you this, experience and talk to you through this, whatever. But to me, it took me a lot to get to the point where it's like, all right, man, this sucks, but man, God, help me get through this because I want to get to the other side of this because I know you're making me better. Your word says that. So that took time. That's not an easy just flip the switch like, oh, okay, I can get through this. It's easy. God chose me to do it.
It's just like your quote says, just, when you're at the top, when you're at the summit and you're looking down and you see all those valleys that you went through
Yeah.
and realizing that, oh, this is what got me there.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
David, I'll tell you what, I was not rejoicing cheerfully when my son lost this weekend in the Little League playoffs.
And that's
And when
okay.
he
I
made
mean,
like, a couple errors at shortstop,
yeah.
like I was not rejoicing.
Yeah, and there's probably a number of verses that we could dive into
That's right.
around
That's
that
right.
that I think, that could probably not me, but Jesus will really convict you on that.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's another conversation.
Lessons learned from 7-year-old baseball.
Yeah, yeah.
Mitch, so what now, man? So you had an amazing season career in the MLB, and you're writing this book. Like, where do you see all this going? Where do you have on your heart that God's calling you to pursue now?
Yeah, like I told you, I kind of fell into the financial industry when I got out. I had a great cloud over the industry myself when I was playing, um, and just seeing some things that went on while I was, in the big leagues and the guys are making the money they did, and just having no direction, no purpose for what they were doing. That kind of drove me that direction. Found out a lot about the industry. I've been in it for going on 8 or 9 years now and love it. So that's what I'm doing on my day job, so to speak. But man, my passion is just helping, people in general. I would say men obviously relate more with the story, but as I get the book going, I do speaking stuff here and there, and man, there's nothing more rewarding than just one person coming up and saying, "Man, I didn't think of it this way," or "Man, I'm going through this," and quite frankly, I did not see the other side of this. And I always remind them, when you're in a valley, that's good news because when you're in the valley, that means there's mountains all around you. And so at some point, all you have to do is figure out the best path to the peak, and then you got to start climbing one step at a time, and find a win here, find a win there, and you stack a bunch of wins together. That's success. And so for me, it was just pouring into people because I think that was what um, I look back and it just a few things turned the wrong way, and I don't want to make light of this at all. I truly think that just a few things go the wrong way, and I may not be sitting right here. And I think that's what is so motivating to me and inspiring to me is that, all right, God, like maybe that was you allowing me to get to rock bottom so that when I get through this, I can say, hey, I don't want anyone else to feel that. And if you are, I want to tell you that you can get out of it. I did. And so I think that's what I'm so passionate about now is just helping others understand that, man, we'll all go through it. This whole social media, Google story life that we're living in now, where everything is just perfect. Everyone has the best trips and the best cars and the best house and everything's just perfect. That's all lies, man. And that just frustrates me. Um, and so that's what I want to tell is the real story that man behind success sometimes is some ugliness. Behind really awesome viewpoints at mountain peaks. Man, that journey, that climb up was hard, and there's things that we had to go through to achieve those things. And so, I just want to get that out to people that hey, if you're going through something, that's probably a good thing. In that you're going to now develop and be a better person. You're going to be stronger, and you're going to be higher up that mountain when you get done with it. And so, I think that's the thing that just keeps me, going each and every day.
Yeah, man, that's I love it. I can't wait for, so I know you don't have an exact date, but when do you kind of estimate the book should be coming out? Where can people get it?
Yeah.
Give us some of that info, yeah.
Yeah, so I want we're we are done with the book. We are just, crossing T's, dotting I's, making sure everything's ready to go. I think it'll be ready to go by to mid to late July. Hopefully sooner. But we're basically kind of keeping everybody up to date via social media. You can go to mitchharris.com. There's all kinds of stuff there as well. And all the social medias are on there. But yeah, we're excited. I'm super excited because again, I think so many people see, the story, quote unquote, say, man, what a cool story. Naval Academy to active duty to the big leagues. That's a really cool story. And I just grin because it's like, you have no idea. And I can't wait for you to read the full story. And so for me, again, that's the motivation is I want people to not only read my full story, but take pride in their full story. And that like,
Mm.
hey, just because you feel like your story is ugly right now, man, it's gonna be that much prettier when you finally get to that time and look back and be like, man, that was brutal. But look who I am today. Look what I accomplished. Look at the impact not only in my life I've had, but on the other people that saw me go through these things. And that's what I'm passionate about.
And so when I'm scrolling social medias, those aren't all true stories that I shouldn't continue to be jealous about.
Yeah, and
I thought,
some of those filters are not real. I just have to say, so
hmm,
you can add hair, but I wouldn't do it. Like there's
yeah,
some cool filters that you can do.
Can you change your
Um,
nose to be straight instead of
yeah,
crooked?
yeah, straight nose, like this flattened thing here in the
yeah, you
middle.
can you can
Yeah, I can.
unbreak it, man. You can
Yeah,
make it all nice
sweet.
and
I
yeah.
thought
So
like
I'll
it
send
had
you an
to.
app.
I thought it
Yeah,
had
that's
like if
good.
it happens on Insta, like you know
Yeah,
it's
real.
real.
And for
Yeah.
sure, TikTok. Anything you see on
Mm.
TikTok is, take it as fact for sure.
Yep. Yep.
Yep.
I'm gonna leave. I actually read this verse last weekend on Saturday, and I posted about it on the socials, on the Instas. But it's from James, James 1:3-4. For you know that when your faith is tested, your endurance has a chance to grow. So let it grow. For when your endurance is fully developed, you'll be perfect and complete, needing nothing.
Boom.
It's
And
good stuff, man.
that was it, man. That was the verse that rocked me when my mom sent it, after obviously consider pure joy. When I got that, I was like, okay, that's what turned the corner for me was reading that a million times and thinking, I don't see it yet, God, but I'm just gonna trust and believe that you are doing it because boy, I don't see that. And years later, looking back, those verses, um, changed me forever, and that was cool.
Well, dude, I can't wait for people to read your story, to read your book, for it to come out. We'll be on the lookout for it. I can't wait to have a copy in my hands. And thank you for your courage. Thank you for your courage to be vulnerable and to tell your full story, not just the Insta Life story, because I know you will impact a lot of people. So, hey, guys and gals, reach out to Mitch. We'll put his website and links in the show notes to where you can get that book, and we'll be sure to release more information as the date gets closer on when that book is released. So, Mitch, thanks, man. It's good to see you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Good to see you guys.
Yeah, buddy. Go
Yeah,
Navy.
thank you, Mitch. Just super, super grateful for you and for two things. One, just the blessing that others will receive from your story, and two, I just thank God you're not a West Point guy. Thank God that you're not a West Point guy. You didn't
That's
play
right.
baseball at Army.
So, how miserable that would have been.
Nobody'd buy that book. Either that or Air Force Academy. Nobody's buying
So,
that book.
they are
Uh,
sitting a lot, sitting at
Uh,
desks
all
and chairs.
right. Thanks, Mitch. See ya.
All right, see you
See you,
guys.
Mitch.